There's a mistake many retirees make in Thailand, and they usually don't realise it until about a year later. It's not in week 1, not in month 3, about the 12-month mark, when the honeymoon phase fades and real life begins. They're sitting on a balcony, in a cafe, maybe looking out at a view they once dreamed about, and one uncomfortable question quietly appears. Did I make the wrong choice? Not about Thailand. Thailand still feels great. The weather, the lifestyle, the lower cost of living, the freedom. No, the regret is more specific than that. Did I buy too soon? Or have I been renting too long for the wrong reasons? And that single decision can cost retirees years of frustration, stress, and serious money. Today I'm going to explain why the first year in Thailand is the most dangerous year to make this decision, why buyers get trapped, why renters drift, and why one issue almost no one talks about, pets, changes everything. If you're thinking about retiring in Thailand, this video could save you from one of the biggest mistakes people quietly make. The first year in Thailand can feel incredible, and that's exactly why it can be dangerous. You arrive in maybe Hua Hin, Pattaya, Chiang Mai, maybe somewhere quieter, and within weeks something starts changing. You sleep better, your shoulders relax, you're not waking up to grey skies, traffic, bills, stress, cold mornings and pressure. You start feeling like yourself again. For many people, younger again. That part is real. But here's where mistakes begin, because your brain often confuses two very different feelings, relief and certainty. Relief says, this is so much better than what I left. Certainty says, I know exactly where I should live forever. Those are not the same thing, but in year 1, they can feel identical. And that's when retirees make expensive decisions. They think, I love this area, I should buy something here. I love this condo, I should lock it in. I feel happy here, this must be the final answer. But happiness after leaving a stressful life does not automatically mean you've found the right street, the right building, or the right long-term base. That takes time, because real life hasn't shown up yet. Later it does. You discover the road outside becomes chaos every school morning. You discover the area you loved in high season feels empty in low season. You discover the beautiful condo next door runs short-term rentals every weekend. You discover that what felt central is actually inconvenient every single day. You discover the place you thought was peaceful feels isolated after 6 months. And none of that means Thailand was a mistake. It means you judged permanent decisions using temporary emotions. That is the danger of year 1. Your first year is for learning how your real life works. Because what feels exciting in month 1 can feel exhausting by month 12. And what felt boring at first can quietly become home. That's why rushing this decision costs so many people more than money. It costs peace of mind. And now let's talk about the trap many retirees fall into first, buying too soon. Buying in Thailand can absolutely work. Many retirees buy well, live happily, and never look back. But when people regret buying, the regret is usually deep. Because this isn't changing phone contracts. This is retirement money. This is peace of mind. This is a place you plan to enjoy your next chapter. And when it goes wrong, it weighs on people. Let me give you a common example. A couple arrives from Britain. They've done their research, watched videos, read forums, visited twice already. They chose a modern condo in Hua Hin. Nice pool, sea view, fresh interior, looks perfect. They buy quickly. For the first few months, they feel smart. Then reality starts. 3 Airbnb units directly above them. Weekend noise, suitcases in corridors, late night drinking on balconies, different strangers every few days. The sea view is still there, but the peace they thought they bought isn't. And this happens more than people realize. Sometimes it isn't noise, sometimes it's traffic. That quiet road in April becomes chaos in school term. Sometimes it's construction. The empty land next door becomes a 2-year building site. Sometimes it's location regret. You realize the condo is lovely, but too far from the hospital, supermarkets, beach walks, friends, or daily life. And then comes the hidden ownership realities. Monthly fees rise, management is weak, repairs are delayed, pool problems, lift issues, aircon replacement, leaks in rainy season. Little costs become regular costs. But the biggest trap is psychological. Once people buy, many stop being honest, even with themselves, because admitting, I rushed this, I chose badly, I'm not happy here, is painful to admit. So instead, many adapt. They tolerate the noise, they ignore problems, they defend the decision publicly. They say, it's still great, could be worse, we're lucky to be here. And maybe some of that is true, but inside, many know they've settled for less than they hoped. Then comes the final problem, getting out. Selling in Thailand can take time, especially second-hand condos, especially overpriced units, especially in buildings with too much competition. Some people sit listed for years. Others slash prices just to move on quickly. And suddenly the cheap mistake becomes an expensive one. Now, to be clear, buying itself is not the danger. Buying too early is the danger. Buying before you understand how you actually live in Thailand. That's the trap. And if buying can trap people, renting can quietly trap them too. Let's talk about that next. Now, after hearing all that, some people think the answer is simple. Just rent, stay flexible, keep your money liquid, avoid being trapped. And sometimes that is exactly the right move. But long-term renting has its own regrets. They're quieter, less dramatic, but very real. Because buying can trap your money, while renting can trap your life in a permanent waiting room. At first, renting feels smart. No commitment, no maintenance stress, no selling problems. You can move if you want. But after a while, something changes. You realize you've been temporary for 2 years, 3 years, then 5 years, and you still haven't built anything that feels fully yours. The furniture was chosen by someone else. The kitchen works, but not how you like. You don't want to improve the place because it isn't yours. You don't want to get too attached because you may leave. You don't fully settle because it still feels borrowed. None of these things seem major on their own, but together they create a low-level emotional drag. Then there's landlord uncertainty. The owner wants to sell. The rent goes up. A relative needs the condo. They don't renew. Now you're moving again, packing again, learning a new street again, finding a new routine again. At 30, this is annoying. At 68, it can feel exhausting. Then there's pets. Many rentals say no dogs. Some say no pets at all. Others say yes until the contract stage. That instantly shrinks your choices. And for many retirees, pets are not a small issue. They're companionship, routine, comfort, family. We'll come back to that in a moment. But the deepest rental regret is this. Some people use renting as flexibility, when really it has become avoidance. They tell themselves, I'm still deciding. I'm keeping options open. I haven't found the right place yet. And maybe that's true for a while, but eventually for some people, flexibility becomes fear disguised as strategy. They're living in Thailand, but never fully arriving, still browsing listings, still comparing areas, still talking about one day, still waiting for certainty that never comes. And years pass like that. So renting can absolutely be wise, but renting without direction can quietly become drift. And drift is expensive too. Not always in money, but in time. And time in retirement matters more than ever. Now there's another issue most people only think about after they arrive. How easy it is to leave if life changes. There's one question many retirees avoid when planning a move to Thailand. Not where to live, not how much it costs, not visas. This question: what will happen if I need to leave? Because life does change. Health changes. Your partner's health changes. Parents age. Children need help. Grandchildren suddenly matter more than beaches. Relationships end. Priorities shift. Or maybe Thailand was a great chapter, but not the final chapter. All of that is normal. All of this happens. And this is where renting and buying become very different experiences. If you rent, leaving is usually cleaner. You give notice, sell a few things, ship what matters, close the chapter. Emotionally difficult maybe, but practically manageable. If you own property, the story can be very different. Now you need a buyer, and buyers do not always arrive quickly, especially for second-hand condos, especially in slower markets, especially if your building has had many similar units competing with yours. Some retirees assume, I'll just sell when I'm ready. Sometimes that can work, sometimes no. Months pass, then a year, then price reduction begins. Then comes pressure. You're trying to solve a life change, while also negotiating a property sale in another country. That's stress many people never planned for. And there's another issue. The price in your head may not be the market price. What you paid, what you spent furnishing it, what you hope it would be worth, none of that guarantees what buyers will offer. And that can feel personal, especially if this home represents security. Then there's the paperwork. Agents, lawyers, transfers, coordination, non-impossible, but non-enjoyable when you're already dealing with a major life change. Now, to be fair, some retirees sell smoothly and move on happily. That absolutely can happen. But smart people plan for friction, not perfection. So before buying in Thailand, ask yourself one calm question. If life changed next year, how easy would this be to unwind? Because retirement decisions should not only work when life goes smoothly, they should also work when life gets complicated. And for many people, one overlooked issue makes both renting and buying harder than expected: pets. Now here's the part many people never think about until it's too late. Some retirees in Thailand do not buy because they love ownership. They buy because they have a dog or a cat, or because they know once they're settled, they'll want one. And that changes everything. Because on paper, renting sounds flexible. But if half the rentals say no pets, and the other half have conditions, deposits, restrictions, or sudden changes, you are not nearly as flexible as you thought. Your options shrink fast. And for many retirees, a pet is not some small lifestyle extra. It's companionship, routine, purpose, a reason to get up early, a reason to walk every day, a warm presence in your home. For people who moved countries, left old networks, or lost a partner, that can mean far more than outsiders' understanding. So suddenly this isn't a housing decision anymore. It becomes an emotional well-being decision. I've known people who planned to rent for years. They bought early because they were exhausted by rejection after rejection. No dogs, no pets, maybe small cats only. And after enough of that, people crack. They buy something they weren't ready for. Wrong area, wrong building, too soon. Not because they were reckless, because they loved their dog. That's real life, and it deserves respect. Some of those people ended up happy, some ended up trapped, but the key lesson is this. If pets are part of your future, plan around that from day one. Do not treat it as a small detail. It can become the deciding factor. Look specifically for pet-friendly rentals early. Consider houses or townhomes, not just condos. Ask direct questions before viewing. Understand building rules. Think ahead. Because if you ignore the pet issue now, it may end up forcing your hand later. And many retirees only realize that after they've already run out of patience. Now there's another mistake people make when choosing where to live. Assuming new automatically means better. It often doesn't. Now let me save some people from a very expensive assumption. New condo does not automatically mean better living. Modern buildings does not automatically mean quiet. Higher prices does not automatically mean peace. But many retirees believe exactly that. They see glossy photos, infinity pools, smart lobbies, fresh paint, gym downstairs, and they assume this must be a premium option. Sometimes it is, sometimes it absolutely isn't, because many newer developments are designed to sell well first and live well second. They look fantastic on viewing day, they photograph beautifully online, but daily life can be very different. Thin walls, noise between units, doors constantly closing in hallways, holiday renters dragging luggage at midnight, balcony conversations you never wanted to hear. That luxury lifestyle can become surprisingly tiring. Meanwhile, some older buildings get ignored for the wrong reasons. No flashy rooftop pool, older tiles, less impressive lobby, but inside, thicker walls, larger rooms, fewer units per floor, more owner-occupiers, less turnover, less noise, more actual peace. I've heard from retirees who moved from shiny new condos into older buildings and said their quality of life improved immediately. Better sleep, less irritation, more space, more privacy, and they often paid less. Now this doesn't mean all old buildings are better. Some have genuine problems. Poor management, aging lifts, deferred maintenance, outdated systems, but the lesson is powerful. Do not buy with your eyes only. Buy with your ears. Visit at night. Visit early morning. Stand quietly in the unit. Walk the corridors. Listen. Talk to residents. Ask blunt questions. Is it noisy? Are there short-term rentals? What are the weekends like? Can you hear the neighbors? Because brochure quality and life quality are not the same thing. And retirees who learn that early avoid a lot of regret. So if newer doesn't always mean better, who should actually rent and who should actually buy? Let's make this simple. So after everything we've covered, who should actually rent in Thailand? For a lot of people, the answer is simple. Renting is not a compromise. It's a smart strategy. If you've been in Thailand less than a year, rent. No hesitation. You still don't know enough yet. You may love the country, but not yet know the right town, road, buildings or lifestyle rhythm for you. Rent first. If you're torn between Hua Hin, Pattaya, Chiang Mai, Phuket or somewhere quieter, rent. Thailand feels very different depending on where you live. Holiday impressions are not daily life. If you're single and still building your social world, rent. Sometimes the right friendships, routines or relationships pull people into different areas than they expected. Flexibility matters. If your budget is comfortable but not unlimited, rent. Protecting capital in retirement is not weakness, it's wisdom. If tying up a large amount of money would create stress, that matters. If you like variety, rent. Some people genuinely enjoy changing areas every few years. Beach now, city later, quieter town after that. There's nothing wrong with that. And if deep down you value freedom more than your roots, renting may not be phase one. It may be the right long-term answer. That's important to understand. Too many retirees assume owning is a serious option. It isn't. The serious option is the one that matches your real personality and real finances, not someone else's idea of success. So if renting sounds like you, embrace it properly. Do it intentionally. Do it strategically. Because renting from confidence feels very different than renting from fear. Now, on the other hand, there are people who absolutely should consider buying, and for them it can be a fantastic move. Now, let's be fair. Buying in Thailand can be an excellent decision for the right person, at the right time, for the right reasons. Some retirees buy and become happier almost immediately. Why? Because ownership gives them something renting never quite did. Stability, control, roots, a strong feeling of home. So who should seriously consider buying? First, people who have already lived in their chosen area for at least a year, not visited, lived there, through normal months, busy months, quiet months, hot months, rainy months. If you still love it after real life has tested it, that means something. Second, people who know the exact area they want, not just somewhere in Hua Hin, not just near the beach. I mean this neighborhood, this road, this side of town, this daily routine. That level of clarity matters. Third, people with stable finances. If buying leaves you comfortable afterwards, not stretched, not anxious, not hoping prices rise, that's a healthier position, especially in retirement. Fourth, people buying for lifestyle, not speculation. If your thinking is, I want a place that suits my life, that's healthy. If your thinking is, this will definitely make money, be careful. Those are very different motivations. Fifth, people who genuinely want roots. Some retirees are done with drifting, done moving, done temporary living. They want their own kitchen, their own furniture, their own rhythm, their own front door. That desire matters too. And finally, people who are emotionally settled. This is underrated. If buying is being used to solve loneliness, panic, uncertainty, or the fear of getting older, slow down. But if your buying comes from calm confidence, it can be a wonderful next step. Because when ownership fits the person and fits the timing, it often feels less like a transaction and more like arriving. Now, if you're still unsure, There's a smarter middle path that removes most of the risk, and it's the one I recommend most often. So after everything we've covered, what's the smartest move for most retirees? Simple. Rent first, but rent with purpose. Not drifting, not endlessly delaying, not living in limbo. Use your first year in Thailand as a research year, a real-life testing year. Because no forum, no YouTube video, no agents, no 2-week holiday trip can teach you what daily life teaches you in 12 months. Rent for at least 1 full year if possible. And during that year, pay attention, not just to the condo, to your life. How often do you actually go to the beach? How much do you value being near a hospital? Do you enjoy a lively area? Or does it wear you down? Do you like being around tourists? Or would you rather be somewhere quieter and more local? How does the area feel at night? How does it feel in the rainy season? How does it feel when you're sick? How does it feel when you are lonely? Those answers matter more than marble floors and pool views. Test your routines. Drive the roads you really use. Shop where you really shop. Walk the streets you really walk. Live the life you actually live. Talk to long-term residents, not people who arrived last month, the ones who've seen years. Ask what they do differently. Ask what surprised them. Ask what still annoys them. That information is gold. And notice something else. Around month 8, 9 or 10, your emotions usually become clearer. The honeymoon settles, the fantasy fades, and what remains is far more valuable. Reality. That's when many people finally realize this area suits me. Or this area looks better than it lives. That clarity is worth waiting for. Then if buying still feels right, you move forward with knowledge, not hope, not pressure, not panic, knowledge. And if renting still feels right, great, that's knowledge too. Because the smartest retirees don't force one answer. They let real life reveal it. And that approach avoids more regret than almost anything else. So after all this, what's the biggest mistake people make? Let me give you the final verdict. So after everything we've covered, what is the real biggest mistake retirees make in Thailand? It isn't renting, it isn't buying, it isn't choosing Hua Hin instead of Pattaya, it isn't choosing condo instead of a house. The biggest mistake is choosing too early, choosing before your real life in Thailand has started. That's where regrets begin. Because many people arrive carrying pressure from the life they left behind. Cold winters, high costs, stress. The feeling that time is moving fast. And that pressure creates urgency. I need to get settled. I need to make the right move. I need to decide now. But urgency and wisdom are not the same thing. Sometimes the smartest move looks slower. To rent carefully, to observe, to test assumptions, to let excitement calm down, to let reality speak. That is not indecision, that's intelligence. The retirees who seem happiest 5 years later are rarely the ones who moved fastest. They're usually the ones who learned first. They arrived, they explored, they adjusted, they changed their minds when needed. And when they eventually bought, or constantly chose to remain a renter, they did it from knowledge, not fantasy, not pressure, not fear of missing out, knowledge. And that creates peace. So if you're planning retirement in Thailand, remember this. Thailand is not going anywhere. You do not need to rush. The right street, the right home, the right routine, the right life, those things are worth taking your time to find. Because retirement is not about making the fastest decision. It's about making the right one for you. and often that decision only becomes obvious after you've lived it for a while. If you're watching this and facing the rent or buy question right now, drop a comment down below. What feels harder to you, committing too soon or waiting too long? I generally like to hear where you are in the journey. And if you enjoy these kind of videos on retirement in Thailand, can you do me a massive favor and press the subscribe button? Really helps the channel, push to other people like yourselves who are retiring in Thailand. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.